is the purpose of dating? What is the purpose of dating? Marriage. Okay.
Relationships.
All right. Relationships. What?
Marriage.
Marriage is what brings us together. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like
Marriage.
to improve each other.
What was that?
To improve each other.
To improve each other. Ooh.
It depends on the type.
No, I just want to hear where you guys are at. That's good.
Well, usually, if you have common interests with each other, it makes it easier.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of know what each other likes.
What's the term we're using for dating now, by the way?
Dating.
Is it dating?
Relationship.
Is that? Okay.
I've
I
heard
hear a lot of
that
people
word.
say. I hear a lot of people say we're talking. We're talking. Is that like pre-dating?
Not the same thing.
Talking's pre-dating?
Pre-dating, yeah.
Alright.
It's like you're more than friends, but you're not.
So talking is like admittedly flirting? Is that what that is?
Yes.
Alright.
I'm figuring it out now. You guys are wild.
Then what's
So-
dating? Hanging
What?
out?
Yeah.
Hanging out? That's
Hanging
dating
out.
then?
Hanging out. That's a good way to lose a girlfriend. You guys dating now and just hanging out. Ain't anymore. Alright, so definitely the main reason of dating obviously is to eventually lead to finding a spouse, right? Sometimes you date someone and you're like, oh sweet mercy, if I stay with them forever, one of us is gonna die, right? And then sometimes, obviously, the goal is then to find somebody that you can spend the rest of your life with. What are some terrible reasons to date?
Money.
Because they look
Money.
nice.
I'm really surprised so many people said that.
Nice.
Because they look nice.
They smell pretty.
They smell pretty.
Emotional
Are you? Wait.
Emotional support.
Yeah,
Is
emotional
that a
support.
dog?
Are you dating guys that smell pretty? Because yeah, that would be a real bad idea. Also, in middle school, that's like zero. There's zero middle school guys that smell good. No offense.
Not my school.
Yeah, I said zero.
No,
None.
there's kids in my school.
There
They
are
do?
some. Yeah.
All right, I'd be afraid of them.
I think
Alright, what else? Come out. What else? What else? Sexual reasons, definitely bad idea, right? What else we got? So far we got money, emotional support, sexual reasons, and because they smell pretty.
Because you refused to say no and you didn't want to hurt their feelings.
That's a tough one. I feel bad for you girls, because I feel like that's what happens to you guys a lot. You get some weird guys that are asking you some stuff, and you're like, oh my goodness.
Just say no.
I'm gonna die in that
It doesn't
corner
work
instead.
like that, Philip. You
Yeah.
can't just say no
Alright.
or you'll end up
So,
dead.
I got some things that I wrote down that I think are terrible reasons. One is because everyone else is. I think that happens a lot. I think a lot of times you see somebody, when a lot of people in their friend group start getting a boyfriend or a girlfriend, they decide they're missing out. And they gotta get one too, right? You guys see this? It happens all the time. You start seeing people link up and all of a sudden they're like, wait a second. There's 2, 2, 2 and I'm a 1. This is not good. I think that happens a lot. The second one is because they are really hot. That's a bad reason. If that's the only reason, it's a bad reason, right? I know a lot of attractive people that are horrible people as well. Another one is because somebody asked me to. Let's kind of go along the lines of what you said. Like, hey, I got asked. I'm flattered I got asked. Since they asked me, I'm going to say yes. Status, I think, is another one. People feel like if you're in a relationship, somehow that makes you better. That's what they do in middle school, high school. I see it all the time. That's a bad reason too, right?
If
The
you're
other
losing,
one-
you're with the popular person, you're gonna, the idea is you'll become popular.
Yeah, there you go. Dating up, I guess. I don't know. And so I think that happens a lot. The other one that happens, I think, often is the idea of I feel lonely. Or the idea that you are not complete in and of yourself. And so you are looking for a fulfillment and you think you're going to find that in another person. Why is that not a good idea?
Because you're not going to find fulfillment in that person.
You're not, right? Your fulfillment comes from what? Comes from God. And honestly, my argument would be that if you are unsatisfied with yourself and with your fulfillment in your own life, you are not ready to begin dating. If you feel you need somebody else to complete you, that means that I personally don't think you are ready to start dating someone. Because you should have that relationship with God intact before you begin dating. Otherwise, you have lots of issues that end up happening. The other one that happens is, in that same idea is, you think somehow that person's going to complete you. Oh, they complete me. We're like this. We just fit together and I'm completed. First of all, second of all, it's easy to feel that way, right? When you don't like yourself, you're hoping that you'll find somebody that likes you, that helps you feel better about yourself, that helps complete you. You want that value, that fulfillment, or you want to feel better about yourself, and you look for that in somebody else. The problem is, every single human that you come across is flawed, right? We're not perfect. And so if you are looking for your fulfillment or your satisfaction from a human, what are you going to experience? Disappointment. Loneliness, yeah. Disappointment moving towards loneliness, right? Yeah, that's what you're going to find. You're going to find that it doesn't end up working out because people cannot fulfill you. That is a role that you have been created to be fulfilled in Jesus. And so that's an important thing to remember when it comes to dating. Dating ultimately is to determine whether or not the person that you are interested in or talking to is a person that you can spend the rest of your life with. What would you say the purpose in life is?
To give life a purpose.
To glorify God, right? Would you guys? Somebody said something over here, I think, or I'm hearing things.
It's just the
Oh,
voices.
it's just the voices. Oh, that's fine. I'm used to them. It is. It's to glorify God. 1 Corinthians 10:31. So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do all to the glory of God. And so that implies also that that's part of what dating is, right? Part of glorifying God is to be done in the middle of your dating. That is something very few people, I won't say none, that is something very few people when they're dating. Why? What are they distracted by?
They smell pretty.
They smell it, thank you. I was definitely going to reference that if no one else did. Yeah, they're distracted, right? They're distracted by their infatuation with a person or becoming a person that person wants them to be, or they're distracted by all these things. And so a lot of times you find that people, once they start to get into couples, you ever notice that when your friends get into a couple, all of a sudden you never hear from them?
Yeah.
Right?
No.
It happens. That's good. That's a great thing if that doesn't happen. I've seen that happen a lot. When people decide that they're in a couple, all of a sudden they don't have time for anybody else. They don't have time for anything else. They're totally like, I love you.
There's every time two people my best friend hooked up with someone in my friend group.
Oh, okay. So you're both friends. Okay, cool. That works out good. You what?
My whole friend group single.
You have a good,
no
you have a
I
good
have
friend.
I have no friends. I don't have that
You don't have to worry about it. All right. But that idea of glorifying God in the middle of dating is something that's really important. Because one of the things that I've described dating as is, I think one of the best ways to describe dating is the idea that you are focused on your relationship with God. And you are doing things He calls you to do. And so I've described it as like a path. You're on that path, you're focused on God, and you start walking down that path, doing the thing that He's called you to do. And as you're doing that, you will find that there are some people around you that are doing the same thing. They have the same desires, kind of honestly, a lot like our sermon today. They have the same desires, they have very similar belief systems, and you find that as you're following towards what God has called you to do, there's going to be people around you that are doing stuff that's very similar. And so you bump into each other. And so you're on the same path, all right? And so now you have somebody that has the same, what are some things that you would want in a boyfriend, girlfriend? Same religion, that's number one, definitely.
Same amount of intelligence.
Same amount of intelligence?
Good luck.
Okay. Good luck. What is that?
Same political.
What are you saying?
Same political beliefs?
That
Oh,
boys
okay.
don't
Alright.
think like girls.
They have to open the door for me.
They have to open the door for you? What?
I have to smell pretty.
They have to smell pretty. Yes.
Work ethic.
Work ethic, definitely
They
important.
have to
The
be
new-
kind of
no
like my
cheating
dad, but not
apps.
No
exactly
cheating?
my dad.
Yes.
Hey, what?
They have to be kind of like my dad, but not.
Not
like my
exactly.
dad.
They need to smell like a cow.
What?
So they need to smell like a cow.
No.
Oh no, that's terrifying.
No, they have to smell pretty. We've heard that already.
Sense of humor. Don't do it.
That's the only
Alright,
thing.
no, stay focused. We're going to have time to talk, because I want to hear what you guys think on these subjects. But we need to stay focused on what we're talking about. And so it is, those things are important, right? But you really need to find somebody that has similar interests, similar beliefs, like you guys mentioned, similar things in life that are important to them. That's so important because a lot of times, honestly, especially when you're in middle school and high school, the thing that happens is you're like, hey, why are you dating that person? Like, because they're pretty. Like, what do you know about them? I don't know. We're just talking, and they're pretty. And so that's what we do. I talk, they're pretty, they be pretty, I talk, they talk while they're pretty, and I talk. It's great, they're pretty. It's like, yeah, we got that! Right? Okay, you got one thing down. That's great. You know, and so we get so infatuated on that one idea that we forget that that is not what the entirety of life is about. There are a lot of people out there that you will find that look great on the outside and have a terrible inside, right? It's very easy to do. Go to Deuteronomy 7 for me. Deuteronomy 7. It's really early in the Bible. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 7. The most important thing when it comes to who you are dating.
You're not trying
Man,
to kill you?
putting one night of dating in.
Wait, Deuteronomy what?
There's so many things we want to say. Deuteronomy 7. Deuteronomy 7.
You need 7 what?
Your parents like them.
Yeah, that's very important.
7 what?
Oh, chapter 7, verse 1. Starting in verse 1, we're going 1 through 4. When the Lord your God brings you into the land you are entering to possess and drives out before you many nations, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, 7 nations larger and stronger than you. And when the Lord your God has delivered them over to you, and you have defeated them, then you must destroy them totally. Make no treaty with them, and show them no mercy. Do not intermarry with them. Do not give your daughters to their sons, or take their daughters for your sons. Verse 4, why? Somebody read that. Verse 4.
They will turn your children away from following me to serve other gods, and the Lord's anger will burn against you and will quickly destroy you.
The most important thing when it comes to dating is that they have a relationship with God. That is the most important thing. That's step 1. If there is no step 1, you got the wrong person. That's step 1. If you skip down the line, they have every other box, but they miss step 1. Do not continue. Do not pass go. Do not collect talking time. Right? That's the most important thing. Why is that so serious? In all reality, why is that so serious?
Because you won't be able to make them a Christian. They will destroy you, and they will destroy your relationship with God.
It's very possible, right? Mr. Baker, if you guys don't know him, Mr. Baker's awesome. Many years ago, he did an analogy with a little coffee table. He put somebody on top of the coffee table and had them lay down, and he put somebody on the floor next to them, next to the coffee table, and had them lay down. And he told the person on the top to try to pull the other person up. How hard do you think that would be?
Really, really hard.
Yeah, that'd be tough, right? No matter how strong you are, you might be able to do it.
You just gotta roll over.
It's gonna be a lot harder. If you are on the bottom, how much easier do you think it is to pull someone up from the top?
Really.
It's a lot easier, right? He used that in what?
Fault the leg.
Yeah, really. It's not that bad. It's not that hard. You just have to shift the weight. It's pretty easy. And so he was given that analogy to say that when you are in a relationship with God and you're set out to be with somebody and you are saying, I can fix them. This is usually a girl thing, honestly. It's either a girl thing because they think they can fix them, or it's a guy thing because we're going back to, oh, they're hot, so I'll figure this out. Like, we will make this work. Have you seen her face? Like, that's the 2 examples of why this happens, are those 2 things. Girls like to fix things, and guys like pretty things. And so it's the 2 times I see it the most, right? But what ends up happening is exactly what Mr. Baker was saying. It is so much easier for them to pull you down in your relationship with God than it is for you to pull them up. And I have to tell you, I've seen this play out many times over and over and over, and that's exactly what usually happens. It's not a good idea. Yes, sir?
Mrs. Warner and I have been married just shy of 20 years, and the biggest reason that you need God is when you're dating, things are great. When you get through life, you realize there's some very hard situations that come and play. There's quite a few things that you need to be on the same page with. One of them is God, because when things get hard, who are you going to turn to? Your spouse will let you down, one way or another, because we're all human, right? We're going to let one down, the other one will let the other one down. So, where's your faith? Where's your trust when the times get tough? The other big issue is you have to be on the same page with money. because money issues are huge. You know, children, to have children, not to have children. There's a lot of big major issues that you need to be looking at. But like Pastor said, the very first thing is if you don't have Christ, how are you going to work things out? You know, how do you play it out if you want to go to church or you want your kids to go to church, or, you know, how are you going to deal with those things when the other half doesn't?
How you want to spend your time, all the things we talked about in church today. I mean, if you are married to somebody that's not a Christian, and you want to spend all your time doing different things in the church or helping people in the church, they don't have that same mentality. So to them, you're wasting time, especially money. Money in between an unbeliever and a believer. Why are you giving money to that church? What are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? It's enough that you go there. Why are you doing this? Those are huge. But yes, go ahead.
I have a teacher who I really highly respect, and we were talking about dating for a little while in Bible class, and something he talked about all the time is, I think it's I'm not exactly sure where it is, but Paul talks about being unequally yoked, and he constantly he uses the analogy of a baby oxen and a big oxen. You put them in the same yoke, you're getting nothing done.
Yeah.
And that's when it comes to dating an unbeliever, you're not getting anything done. They're just going to slow you down.
Or the other thing with the yoke too is if you're heading in different directions, because they could be both full size oxen, but if one wants to turn left and one wants to turn right, what's going to happen? Neither one of you are going to get what you want. Yeah. You know, and if you've ever seen a team of horses or oxen or anything work together, they have to have certain personalities to even work, you know? And when they work, they can do a lot. They really can.
Yeah. And that's really, honestly, what it comes down to is you want to leverage your relationship from dating into being a husband and wife to bring the most glory you can to God. I mean, that's your purpose. So you want to be able to maximize the amount of things that you can do for God, and that increases when you marry somebody that's in the same page. Because that's the second thing I want to talk about. The other thing that happens a lot is you will have somebody that is dating somebody or interested in somebody, and they're a Christian, but it's like they're very immature in their faith. You know what I mean? And so if you are dating someone, you really want to be with somebody that's at or above your level in your faith. It's not a good idea, especially for you ladies. For you ladies, you do not want to be the person in the household that's always having to remind their husband, hey, let's go to church. Like, hey, come on, we have to go. It's time to go. Like, let's get going. Because guys already have a hard enough time with that. Even when they love God, they're like, oh, it's Sunday. I got so much work I could get done. Okay, all right, it's time to go. We do this because we love God. And so it's really important that when you are in a relationship with somebody, that they're at or above your walk with Christ. And that's a hard thing to do. Because a lot of times, unfortunately, in this world, what we do is we settle. You know what happens is, you're around a certain amount of people, you look around and you're like, hey, I know 20 people, or I know 30 people that I know pretty well, and 3 of them know God well, and 1 of them has a decent relationship with Jesus. I guess that's who I have to marry. It's like, you're 15. I feel like you might meet somebody else. You know, I think it's going to happen for you. I think you got time. So one of the things that I always encourage people is that, man, if you are dating somebody, you really want somebody that's at your level of interest in God, at your level of commitment to God. Because honestly, I think that applies, like you were saying, to the unequally yoked thing. Because you might be married to somebody that's a Christian, but they don't take their faith real seriously. And that's almost as difficult. And in some ways, it's even more difficult sometimes than being married to somebody that has no interest in God, because at least you know where they're at. And so it's really important that you don't settle. When you marry, what's the goal of being married to someone? For how long?
Until you die.
Till death do us part, right? You don't want to be hoping for your death. You do not want to be in a marriage where you're going, dear Lord, strike me with lightning, or them with lightning, so I can get out of this relationship. That's not what you want. This isn't like buying your first car, where you're like, that'll do for the first 4 years. I don't got a lot of money. That's not what you do with a spouse. You are looking for one person to be with for the rest of your life. Set your standards high and don't lower them. Set them high and do not lower them, because you're going to face all these things that we talked about so far. You're going to face the time when you're going, hey, everybody has a significant other except me. Is there something wrong with me? No, you're probably the smart one. I'm not even joking. You're going to have a lot of times when people are like, hey, why aren't you dating someone? You're going to have a lot of people that pressure you in different situations. And you're going to be tempted to settle. It's not worth it. It never is. It never is. There's so many marriages that are terrible, and there's so many marriages that don't make it because people have decided that they were going to settle. That was good enough. It's not worth it. Don't do it. Don't settle. Find somebody that loves God just as much as you do and accomplish a lot together. So I'm going to try to go through some of these things. What should somebody look for in a... Oh man, there's so much stuff here. Okay. What should somebody look for in a woman? We're going to go to Proverbs 31. Proverbs 31. This is for you guys. Guys, this is what you're looking for. Women, this is what you want to be. Proverbs 31. Phenomenal.
He's trying to tell us what we want to be.
No, God did. So I don't have to. That's why I love the Bible. Not me, God. Be mad at him. I'm just a messenger. Proverbs 31, starting in verse 10. It is sad, though, that I've said that before, and I've thought about how I worded it, because I was in a place that I was worried that somebody would say exactly what you said. I was like,
You can always count on me.
no, I'm not around a lot of people that believe this way. I'm very careful. You gotta word things strategically. Proverbs 31, 10 through 11. It says, a wife of noble character who can find? She is worth far. By the way, this is Solomon, so that's kind of ironic, isn't it? It's like, bro, you tried enough. Like, obviously not you. 1,000 and you can't pick. Whatever. Come on, Solomon.
You'll find the right one eventually.
Yeah. It's like, nope. I'm bad at this. Like, someone else want to choose for me?
I'm bad at this. Let's write a book about it.
Yeah. That's hilarious. She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. Look at Proverbs starting in verse 13. First thing is exactly what Mr. Warner talked about, actually hardworking. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She gets up while it is still night. She provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. So she doing a couple things here. She's providing for her family, right? She cares about her family. She cares about her husband, about her kids. She's focused on that, focused on what they need. She's also focused, and if you continue through, somebody read verse 16 for me.
She considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hand, she plants it in it.
So she's wise with her what? Money. Two things Mr. Warner mentioned. Maybe we should listen to Mr. Warner. She is wise with her money. Verse 17 and 18. Somebody read that for me.
She dresses herself with strength and makes her arms strong. She perceives that her merchandise is profitable.
Nice. She's hardworking. She's wise with her money, and she is focused on her husband and on her family and the needs that they have. Not only that, but look at verse 20. She's giving. She's considerate. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hand to the needy. She's compassionate. She has empathy. She cares about how other people are feeling. Why would you not want to be married to someone that doesn't do these things?
You're gonna haul all the weight and you're eventually gonna break.
Yeah.
You can't do it forever.
No, and you can't always be around either, right?
Because she's gonna be bossy and needy and mean, and you're not, like, after at least a year of being married, if not less, you're gonna want to not be with her.
Right. Yeah, it's true. She's not considering your family or you. She's not wise with her money, so she's buying all this crazy stuff. She doesn't work hard. She doesn't consider how other people feel. Like, that's a problem. That's a problem. Verse 25. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. You know what it doesn't say? What's cool clothes today? Is Hollister still a thing?
Yes.
Yeah, it is sweet. It was when I was a kid. This was a while ago. All right. Yeah, it doesn't say she's clothed with name brands, right? It says she is clothed with strength and dignity. Things that actually matter. What makes up who a person is. So what is he really saying through all this? All these specific examples are important, obviously. But what is he saying that we should be looking at? The what of a person?
Character.
Yeah, who they are. Who they are. what they do, what they focused on, what is important to them, who they really are. And so that's the things that we are supposed to pay attention on. Is this what happens with a lot of guys?
No.
No, it's not, right? They don't
Not-
consider that at all. They end
Definitely not until later in life.
Yeah, you don't think about it. You make a lot of poor decisions because you don't consider the who of that person, the what they really are. Look at verse 26. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. Why would you want to be married to somebody who's wise?
To prevent you from
Dating
screwing
idiots
up.
is really annoying.
Because dating an idiot is really annoying.
To
Well,
prevent you from
that's
screwing up.
True, definitely, right?
You want them to be smarter than you.
Or at least equally as smart.
Well, you want them to have wisdom. There's a difference between wisdom and smart, right? I know a lot of people that are really good at book stuff that are really dumb in life.
Oh, me too.
Right?
Yeah.
It happens a lot.
Frustrating.
It happens a lot. It
It's
happens a lot.
frustrating.
There's a difference between wisdom and smart.
Yes.
Wisdom is
It's very
how they are able to respond to situations that they find themselves in. Look at verse 27. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. In verse 30, charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. What is that verse saying?
She's gonna grow old one day. Like, she's not gonna have a pretty face all the time, but if she believes in like the Lord, that's gonna stick with her.
Yeah, that's exactly right. He's saying if you marry someone for looks, one day you might be disappointed. But if you marry somebody for what's on the inside, every single day you wake up, you'll be glad you made that decision. That's what he's saying. He's saying you're looking at the wrong place. And this is Solomon, so he knows what it's like if you're looking at the wrong place. Right? He knows.
This morning, so we're going to the church. We're going through a series on relationships, and
That's right.
our pastor this morning he mentioned outward appearance and how we tend to care more about what we look like on the outside than the inside. And he made a point to call the girls out specifically and say, if you are dressing to get the attention of guys, you're getting the attention of the wrong people, because the guy you want is the one who turns away and says, I don't care about what you look like.
My dad used to say that all the time. Yep. Very true. Very true. Yeah. So some helpful hints for guys. Pay less attention to how she looks. That's the first one. Pay less attention to how she looks. Looks, they matter, right? They matter somewhat. But we have elevated them all the way to the top of the list. And it's Solomon's saying, hey, you guys are choosing the wrong thing. You're picking the wrong thing here. It's important, but it's not at the top.
So, speaking from a girl's perspective, if guys are just looking for a really pretty girl, like someone that they think is drop dead gorgeous, there is a 95% chance that they're only with you because they think that you're ugly, so that they can always be the prettier one. Which is like,
That happens.
Yeah.
it does.
Are you
It
saying
does.
for
It
this is what
does.
a girl does?
A girl?
Oh,
so
a
if
girl.
somebody thinks
I was like a guy. What?
No, if a girl, like, if
I hear
you
ya.
keep, like, if you're constantly, like, chasing after this girl because she thinks that she's the most gorgeous person on the face of the planet, and she's with you,
Probably not.
she's gonna think that you're really ugly, so that when you two are together, she can always be the prettier one and draw more attention from guys, because girls are very self-centered and they are so
You said
concerned
it.
about what they look like.
Say that out loud. I want to hear that again.
It's like, alright, not all say that again.
Yes,
Not
very
all
true.
girls,
Very
but
true.
a lot of girls.
Hold on.
A lot of them.
What were you saying?
I had I'm good friends with a girl. She's a couple years older than me. Flat out tell me that she was super interested in this guy for a while. She was only interested in the chase because he made her feel good, because he was always telling her that she looked like that she's pretty, and she just loved the compliments. But as soon as they started dating, she was out of it, because she's didn't care, because it wasn't.
See, that's why I tell my girls every single day that they're beautiful. So when some guy tells them, they're gonna be like, "Yeah, I know. My dad's told me." Also, be scared of him because he'll murder you, which will be true. But that's important, right? It's important to keep our focus, though, that when you are, as a guy, when you are looking for a potential girlfriend, when you're looking for a potential spouse, pay very close attention to who that person is. Much more attention than what they look like. Also, I do want to say, one of the things you're going to realize and you're going to learn is that there are characteristics of people that make them more attractive. There are characteristics, some things that are on the inside that they'll do something and in your mind you're like, that's hot. Yeah, that's hot. There are things my wife does that have nothing to do with how she looks that in my brain I'm like, she does that, my wife's hot. Right? It's something that it actually happens though. I'm not kidding. You'll know this. You'll have people that you're friends with that you're not paying attention to what they look like because you're so focused on who they are. And there are things that people do that make them more attractive. It's amazing. It really does happen. I've seen it over and over again, that's for sure.
Grace is like, oh yeah, my boyfriend, he's not cute. But I love him anyway. Or no.
That might be a different problem.
No, she openly admits, she's like, yeah, he's not the most attractive person in the world, but the list that I made in youth group and have prayed over every day since I've left, he is that person. So it really doesn't matter that he's not cute.
But there's like on the opposite side of the spectrum, there's also things like you can find the cutest person ever, but there are things they do that's like, no.
Yes, 100%.
Not cute.
Not
100%.
cute.
Not cute.
100%. I think that's more often, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's like kids in my school and in my class, the boys, they fish for compliments from the girls.
The boys do?
Yeah, because they just
Boys
like
are so girly today. I can't get over it.
Yeah.
They drive me
More
nuts.
common
Yeah.
than you think.
How lame. Yeah. Quick aside, in my experience, the less attention you pay to a girl, the more they're interested in you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Just saying. And then, throughout my entire high school,
She's not wrong.
throughout
It's
my
terrible, but
entire
you're not
high
wrong.
school experience, I asked 0 girls out. I went to 3 dances. Maybe was invited to a 4th one by 2 different people and was asked to date tons of people and handed phone numbers all the time. My secret? Ignore them. That's all I did. That's all I did.
I think hard to get work.
Who are you?
There was this
All right,
one person.
let's stay back because I don't got a lot of time and I want to get to the other end of it. All right, ladies, what you're looking for in a man and what men should want to be. 1 Timothy 3, 1 through 3. 1 Timothy 3, 1 through 3. By the way, the list of things that guys should be versus the list of things that girls should be, according to the Bible, are different. Throwing it out there.
1 Timothy 3?
Throwing it out there. 1 Timothy 3,
I never would have known.
3 what?
1 through 3. Here is a trustworthy saying. Whoever aspires to be an overseer desires a noble task. Now the overseer is to be above reproach. Above reproach is huge. I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. Above reproach is the idea that no one has a valid bad thing to say about you. Above reproach is no one can go, yeah, well, he beats dogs. I don't know. Like, I don't know. That's the idea. The idea is above reproach. I didn't do it. I said he doesn't do it. Oh my goodness. Above reproach is having nothing in your life that is valid that somebody can point to and say, well, this is broken. Faithful to his wife, temperate, self-controlled. What's temperate?
Doesn't get angry.
Why would you, this is important, why would you not want to be with a guy who is angry?
Because there's gonna be arguments.
Yeah. Abusive, right? Which, by the way, if you ever find yourself in an abusive relationship, send me name, address, and on his 18th birthday, I will have a conversation with him. Yeah.
I just want to talk to him. Just want to talk.
Just want to talk.
Oh, there's totally not
I
a
want
good
to check
craft
out
up
grade
in my
sex.
back pocket.
Yeah, temperate. Temperate's important.
I want to stay on Ben's good side.
Temperate is important. Seriously, I've seen this. Temper is very important. And I don't know what it is with girls sometimes, but they end up finding a guy that he has a horrible temper.
Well, he
And-
only beats me when his mom yells at him.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, but my blood is literally boiling thinking about that. It's not a good thing, but it does happen, and it's easy to find yourself in that relationship. And I do want to take this time to say that when you are dating someone, you are looking for a future spouse. You are not Lego building a future spouse. You are not going, well, I can fix him. No! Find someone who's not broken! It's like going and picking out a house. You're like, yeah, things are dumb. I'm buying it anyway.
Well, if it's cheap.
Yeah, we're not looking for a cheap spouse, alright? Shit! Oh my goodness, that's the whole point. You're not going, I wonder what I can get her for. If that's that's you. You're doing this wrong, right? You're not looking for something that's broken. Wait. But this is what happens, though. No, it is, because I'm showing that you want this thing to be something that you want for all of time. It's not something you're trying to build. Oftentimes, I'll have conversation with people, and they will be dating someone, and they're like, well, I think I can change him. Or he has this red flag thing about him, but I think he's going to change. What are you doing? You're dating someone. You are not married to them. If you are married to them, you work through things. You make this work. You want the relationship to work. If they're struggling, you do things like go to therapy, you talk to people, you work through things. If you are dating someone and they're yelling at you all the time, or they're addicted to things like pornography, or they're pushing you to do things that you know you shouldn't do, don't stay with them. You're not building Legos. You're looking for a lifetime spouse. Do not stay in that relationship. You're cheating yourself and you're wasting your time. Lots of hands up. What's up?
You have a rope.
Why do you want to roll?
Do I what?
My tooth is right about to come out. Put it.
Oh, I'll knock it out for you later.
Not important.
Okay, pause.
Yes.
This is something my mom has always told me, like, when you're dating someone, they are on their best behavior.
Yeah.
So when, like, if they're doing something, that's, like, the best that they're ever gonna get, like, more or less.
Yeah.
And if they're, like, not respecting you or whatever, it's not gonna be okay when you marry them. It's just gonna get, like, worse.
You know, one of the best ways you can pay attention to this, and your parents would probably tell you this, is pay a lot of attention to how they treat their parents, or how they treat their sister, or how they treat their brother, because they're very familiar with them. And so if you're with somebody and they treat their brother or their sister terribly, or they talk trash about their mom and dad all the time, you're with somebody you shouldn't be with. Because that's how they're going to treat you when you're no longer in that dating phase, when everything's great. You want to pay a lot of attention to that. It's a big deal. One of the things that I loved about Jacqueline was the way she treated her family and the way she treated my family. It makes a big deal. It's a big issue. Somebody said something about having your parents like them. Who said that? Was that you? That's a big thing. Your parents, do they know you pretty well?
No.
Some of them do. Some of them don't. I understand what you're saying.
You're basically mini versions of your parents.
For the most part,
Not me.
you might feel like they don't know you well because you're 12 to 16 and everyone feels that way. But your parents have been around you for 12 to 16 years. They kind of know some things about you. So if you're with somebody and they're telling you this is not the person for you, you're not going to like this, but they're probably right.
They might
They're
not know me
probably
because
right.
I sit around in my room all day and avoid human contact.
That sounds like a poor life choice.
Also,
All right, keep on.
So, I was talking to a guy for almost a year. It was talking because I wasn't allowed to date him yet, and
No date until after you're married.
Exactly. It went horribly wrong after about 4 months, and me being the girl that I am, I was like, no, it's okay. I can fix him. It'll be okay. Like, he'll get better. He's telling me that he's working on getting better. It never got better. So we stopped talking, and after we got done talking, my parents were like, yeah, we never liked him. And I got really frustrated because I was like, but your role as parents is to tell me that you don't like someone and that they're not good for me. And they're like, well, obviously you saw that they weren't good for you, otherwise you still would be talking. And like they said, for the sake of my relationship with my parents, because at the time it was super rocky, they said for the sake of our relationship, they just let it go and they wanted me to make my own mistakes. So make sure you have a good relationship with your parents so that they can be open and honest with you about someone that you're talking to or dating, because you don't want to come to find out after almost a full year of your entire life wasted that your parents didn't actually like them.
Yeah.
My dad did that for me when I was in B. Yeah. It was sort of like what?
1B.
Oh, okay.
It's
yeah,
like
it's important.
my friend the boy I'm talking to that's a grade ahead of me, but he's like super mean to his younger brothers because he's got 2 younger brothers, but yet he's so nice to his parents. Like, because his parents have common interests.
His brothers are kind of.
Yeah.
That's how they
Very.
parent.
It's usually like you pay attention to how they treat the sibling that's of the opposite sex.
Yeah.
So like if Nate is terrible to
Well, he
Emily,
doesn't have
Nate,
any
you
That's
go,
a true
"Oh,
story.
So
Yeah.
But it goes the other way
Uh-oh,
too.
Nate.
My
I'm
best
not-
friend, I think you're in a little bit of trouble there. My best friend is dated this one boy in my grade. They were so perfect for each other. They were amazing. They were so happy. But they were together in like 6th grade. At the end of 6th grade, they both decided they were a little too young to be doing this, and they wanted to stay like special friends, but they wanted to just like not use that label yet.
Yeah.
The next year, 7th grade, we could go to a dance. He wanted to ask her out to the dance, but this one brat in my grade was like, "Oh, she's already got a date," and she did, but it was her best friend from childhood.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That broke
not
him.
really dating with the friend.
That broke him. He went to one of my other friends. They were together for like a month. Goodbye. On to the next one. Another one of my friends. 2 months. Goodbye. On to the next one. Try getting with me.
Okay.
Let's stop that
From my perspective, 6th grade is not a good time to start dating someone because
In 7th grade. Honestly, all through middle school, don't do it because it's the most
you guys
awkward years.
don't want to know my opinion on when you should start dating.
There's really no rush on this, guys. There's really no rush.
25.
No, I believe
25 is about when your brain
I
is
personally
fully
don't think you
Phil,
should.
shut up.
I don't think you have any business dating anybody until you're 16. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
So Romans 12:2. A lot of you look to the people around you, right? Like the dating and all that, like when and where and how and who. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not copy the behavior and customs of this world. Let God transform you into a new person by changing the way that you think. When you learn to know God's will for you, which is good and what is pleasing and perfect." It's not about what the people around you are doing. If you're looking to follow the trends or whatever it be, I mean, it's all wrong. I mean, you got to be looking for what God's will is for you. And when I met Mrs. Warner, I was just shy of 18. I think I was a couple months before 18. She just turned 16, and she caught my attention, but then we started to get to know each other. And I very shortly realized, when you learn the character of a person, you realize she's one of a kind. She was not like anybody else that I knew. She has a different character, and she stood out. I mean, that's just it. I pursued her and pursued her and pursued her. She kicked me away a few times, and, you know.
We broke up, and I said we'll be friends, and I didn't really mean it. I was just trying to nice. But he held me to it.
So then I went out on a date with another girl. The next day she was livid, and she said, let's go somewhere, and she was a totally different person. And next thing you know, she liked me again because apparently I was too good to go out with anybody else.
Let's just be friends, not really. How dare you go out with someone else?
Yeah.
That's not
Let's get back to the topic.
But what my point is
important.
You can date all you want. Pastor Ben can say the same thing. You can date all you want. If you're pursuing marriage, when you just get to know people just around you, you know people that stand out. There's a certain character that you will relate with, you will understand. That person understands you. There's just so much more to it. The relationship end, you have to be able to plan on living together forever through good times, bad times, other problems around you. There's so many other things just outside of even your problems. Their problems are going to become your problems. Your kids' problems, your kids' friends' problems, your church's problems. Everything comes in, and you've got to be able to handle it together. The only way you're going to be able to do that is if you're equally yoked. You know, that's where that term comes, is you have to be able to, you know, be on the same page, or you might not always see eye to eye, but you have to have a common goal.
Definitely. I think that idea also, like you started with in Romans, of not having the world's view of it, but having God's view of it. What's the goal of dating again? Marriage? Why are you dating someone in 6th grade? How old is a 6th grader? What are they? How old?
Like
11.
10 to 11. It depends.
You got 7 years before you can get married.
12 to 13.
Okay.
It's
13.
It depends on
12.
your
11 to 12, genius.
It depends on your
Well,
birthday.
I
Graduated
was
at
military,
16.
I don't know what they would do.
All right. Let's not
It
go there.
really depends on your birthday.
Dating people in
Your
6th grade is a terrible
grade
idea.
line, so.
If the goal of dating is to find somebody that you're going to spend the rest of your life with, I think you should really take the younger years of your life observing how people act in a group setting. I'm a big fan of doing things in groups because you can see not only how they treat you, but like your mother said, they treat you really good because they're interested in you, of course, right? But you also get to see how they treat other people. You get to find out who they are. You can be talking without talking by watching and observing and being friends with them. Honestly, I did that with Jacqueline. Jacqueline and I were, when I first met her, I had no interest in her. I didn't know her. I had no interest in her. I had just come out of like a relationship. I was almost 20, I think, 19, 20, something like that. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to date for a while. I was just started at a new college. It was my sophomore year of college. And so I was like, yeah. And so I just had a whole bunch of friends. And I met her, and she was my friend for a year. And just like Mr. Warner said, after a while, when you're around somebody, you're like, oh, there's something different here. So after we were friends for a year, we started dating. I actually asked her dad for permission to start dating her. Talked to him, and he was like, sure. He also told me that he was a butcher. That was a little scary.
Watch for the cleaver.
Yeah, one of the first things we ever did was he handed me a saw and told me to cut a deer's head off. And I was like, hey, sweet! So I did that, and I think that's when he was like, all right, he's good. He's good people. And we were friends for a long time. We were friends for a year. We dated for a year, and then we got engaged. And when you get to know somebody in that friend setting, I think that's the best way to do it, honestly, because it takes a lot of the problems that we talked out of it. It takes a lot of the temptations of one-on-one out of it. It takes a lot of those things that you get so fixated on. It takes that out of it. It keeps you in a good setting. It keeps you honest. It keeps you focused. And you get to see how they actually are as a person. I think it's a great way to go about dating. I do want to go back to this, though. 1 Timothy 3, verses 6 through 7. He must not be a recent convert, or he may become conceited and fall under the same judgment as the devil. That's prideful. He must also have a good reputation with outsiders. He has to have a good reputation so that he will not fall into disgrace and into the devil's trap. Girls, when you are looking to date somebody, ask one of your guy friends who knows him about him. It's a great idea because I saw a lot of girls in college who were dating a guy who they thought was awesome, who I knew for a fact was a jerk. I knew them well, and I was like, yikes, not good. And they thought he was so sweet because he was really nice to them, and I knew what he was doing because we knew him well. Yes. Talking about you, Chris, if you're out there. You know who you are. We'll come across
I'll
paths
fucking
again.
do the actual walking up the stairs.
Not funny for
Some
him.
guy
So some helpful hints for girls. Watch how he treats his mother and his sisters. It shows you how he will treat you.
If
It's
he
very
has
true.
sisters.
Yeah, if he has sisters,
Or
yeah.
grandmother.
Yeah, how grandmother, whoever is watching him, whatever that is. How he
Even
treats
a relative.
authority. You can't change him. I have that in bold letters. That's something we have to, like Becca said, it's something we have to come to grips with. People usually are who they are. Who changes people? God, right? Jesus does. Not us. We don't usually change people. We can help people, but we're not usually making permanent changes. Hard working is huge. You do not want a lazy guy. Pay attention to the work that he does at his house, the work that he does at school, the work he does wherever he finds himself. Another thing that's huge is you do not, as a girl, want to date a guy who's flirty. You do not. You do not want to have to put up with that. No, you do not want somebody who's flirting with everybody else.
No, not.
Yeah, you want nothing to do with
If
that.
they're flirty in high school, they're probably gonna be like that even after you get married
Yeah,
with other
you do
women.
not want
They
somebody
don't change.
that's flirting with everybody while he's with you. That is not a thing that you want to be involved in. I knew a lot of guys like that. They'd get in a relationship and you're like, you're dating somebody, right? And they're like, yeah, but okay.
Okay.
So there is this one guy in particular that's a little bit older than me, like we're not in the same grade. He is just like ridiculously flirty with everybody, like whatever. He's a great time to be around. There was a girl who was like, they were talking, and we are like kind of close friends. So I saw him like with some other girls, and I'm like, aren't you two together? Well, yeah, that's just his personality. And I'm like, no, hun, it's a little different.
Yeah. Oh, that's the other thing too.
Don't want me to Tony Stark in the room.
Yeah, that's true.
No
As
one
a
knows his backstory.
yeah, As a guy, I can tell you my advice for you as a girl is flirty girls have a lot of friends, but they're not the one you marry. I'll tell you that. It's not the one that any guy is interested in settling down with. It's not what you want in somebody. Being flirtatious with everybody is not a good idea. The other question is, does your dad like him? As a girl, this is important. Your parents, dad, grandparents, whoever you're with, grandparents, whoever is watching you, whoever's in charge of your life, do they like him? What do they think of him? Does your mom think it's a good match? They know you well. They know you well. And pay less attention to how he looks. Girls usually are better at that, honestly. Not always, but generally speaking, girls are better at that because they're smarter than us.
I am the ugliest figure ever, and I've been asked out before, so.
You haven't seen some kids.
Yeah, it matters a lot more what's on the inside.
Wow.
Alright, I gotta go through these quickly because we're going over time. Let me finish this. Because I'm trying to take like 8 weeks of things that I would have liked to talk to you about in 1 week. So, you wanna date somebody that you have common interest with. You want to date somebody that would be a good helpmate, somebody that is good at areas you're not good at. My wife has helped me become more organized. I was not good at being organized. She's also helped me become more good at details. I'm a big picture person. I have big ideas. And she's like, yeah, well, what are you going to do to get there? I don't know. But that's a great idea. She's like, valid, but let's get there. She helped me in that area. You want somebody that's able to do those kind of things. It's very important. Do they have a similar background as you? This doesn't always happen, but one of the cool things for me, being married to Jacqueline, is we have a lot of things in common that we were brought up very similar, in a very similar way. And so we have a lot of the same values, a lot of the same interests, a lot of the same things that I think she thinks. I think you saw that even in the past year with the pandemic stuff. When people are stuck at home for a long period of time, and there were some really serious discussions happening, whether it was the Black Lives Matter, or it was Back the Blue, or all these different things that came out. You saw a lot of people and have some difficulties in relationships because they did not believe the same things. And so it's important. It's important that you have these. How do your friends and your family feel about them? If they try to isolate you, by the way, from everybody else, that's a danger sign. It's a danger sign. You do not want somebody that every time they want to be with you, it has to be alone. That does not initiate good things. If every time they want to be with you, they want it to be when you are alone, that's a problem.
Also, if they have an issue with the boundaries that you personally have set and your parents have set for you, and they keep like pushing to see like how far can they get without like getting in trouble, that's also not good.
Yep, terrible. That's a really bad thing.
And never want to rush because you can die, not have a spouse, and go to heaven. But if you take the wrong spouse and you screw up,
stuck with them. Yeah. It's very important.
I think something really important that because as teenagers, especially those who have grown up in the church, and it's like marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Something like we are so focused on a relationship that we have to remember that we're not told anywhere in the Bible everybody has a soulmate or everybody's going to get married. Like, we are the bride of God. Like, as a church, we're
you can be
and there are people who are called to singleness. Like, I know some ladies that never married, and they're some of the wisest people I've ever met, and they're happy without a husband. Like, that's just...
The other thing is that you brought up a good point. That idea that we talk about that so much in the Christian culture about marriage. One of the things I've noticed is a lot of people get into a relationship and they end up doing some things they know they're not supposed to be doing. So their solution is, we should get married now. You know, that's not a great idea, right? You can get out of that relationship and start over. It's okay. Your first boyfriend does not have to be your husband. Your first girlfriend does not have to be your wife. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is, when you are dating someone, you are looking for, is this the kind of person I could spend the rest of my life with? That does not mean that if you're in a relationship, you make a mistake, you do things you're not supposed to do, that now you have to marry that person. That is not what that means, okay? That's an important thing to keep in mind, too.
I was cooking with my grandma one time, and we were cooking something,
and the first batch didn't come out right, and she was like, "It's just like boyfriends. Like the first one, it's just a trial and error. Like trial and error."
Sorry, I'm satisfied with my week's. Yeah, we're gonna have to let you go. I'm not paying for this. Yeah, the trial period has ended. You're gone.
I think like we also have to remember our happiness does not come from a spouse. It doesn't come from a boy. It doesn't come from a girl. They don't complete us. It's Christ and our relationship with Him that brings us happy. That makes us happy, because a lot of relationships start with, well, like what you said, I'm lonely, or trying to fill this void.
Definitely.
The void isn't going to be filled by a relationship.
No, it will not. And then when you're not, the problem is too, when you have that mentality that you're gonna fill my void, when you are with somebody and they don't, you get mad at them. You're like, what? Why aren't you doing this? Like, you're just not, something's wrong with you, and you're putting expectations on them that only Jesus can fulfill. Like, that's a problem. They're not gonna live up to Jesus, right? And so you gotta be careful with that. And that's for sure. When you end up thinking that somehow they're going to complete you and they're going to fix everything about you, and then they're not able to do that, it's easy then to be upset at them for something that's really not their problem. It's not what the job is to be. I think it's really important for you to have a strong relationship with God. I think it's honestly important for you to be a little bit older. I don't think it's a good idea, a wise idea, to be dating when you're young, because I don't think, even if you do find the right person, now you're going to be with that person for, let's say you start dating at 13 or 14, right? You have something to say?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So we were in school. A friend of mine has a boyfriend. She's had for like a couple of years now, and she like just turned 16, just has her permit. And we were talking, and it's like, you're not even like really dating, because your mom's driving you around in her little minivan.
Yeah.
It's like you're just having a play date. You're
Yeah.
not like dating.
That's something my parents always tell me.
Just having a
growing up.
play date. I love that.
Like, that's
That's
something
funny.
my parents always tell me growing up. Is like, when you're old enough to go out and do things, and it's not solely relying on your parents, that's when you're dating. Because right now, it's just going out with a friend because your parents gotta be there.
Well, the parents would rather be there the whole time, to be honest with you. But
Yeah.
I mean, you might not agree.
That's fine. I got a GPS installed on my kids. So.
My parents make us take a third nerd because it's not a third wheel, because that's awful. It's a third nerd, and that is our person to keep us accountable. And it's a really terrible job.
I think that's why I'm a big fan of group dating. I'm a big fan of group dating. It makes
My
it
brother,
not awkward. Hold on, too many conversations happening.
I've grown up because I have two older
I'm
sisters.
coming to you, Harley, next.
Because I have two older sisters that have been in relationships, I've always been the go-to
Third wheel? Yeah.
No, it's a third nerd, not a
nerd.
wheel.
I'm
So
sorry.
I had my friend Ethan over one time, and my parents had to run to the barn, so they made Evie stay in the house with us because we couldn't be in the house alone. She was like, "This is terrible. I just want to go outside." I'm like, "It's literally 15 minutes. Like when you have to go out for hours with them, then you can start to."
I don't mind it.
Then you can come talk to me.
It's
Yeah.
terrible.
Alright. Any questions?
I can
Any
feel
thoughts?
throwing
Okay.
a
Oh,
bus
I didn't mean to
stop
come to you.
I have this person,
Okay.
and he wanted to video call
You
me.
have a person? That's scary. Where are they, Harley?
In your basement.
Alright, sorry. That was my fault. Go ahead.
They wanted to video call me,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, okay, sure. I asked my parents.
Yeah.
And they're like, sure, just make sure that you have a chaperone. And it's like, it's a video call. What's the worst that's gonna happen?
A lot.
You'd be
A
surprised.
A lot of stuff could happen.
Yeah. Wait,
You're
time out.
awesome.
I love stories. I would talk forever, but I want to. Is there any questions? Anything that we need to? That I didn't talk about, because I went through stuff so fast. It breaks my heart. I could do this for 100 weeks.
Can I say
Like I would not. I did not need notes for this. I could have done this forever.
So, you've kind of been mocking how, like, a bunch of teenagers, they're just talking before they're dating. But, like, in
Yeah.
my opinion, it's kind of something that needs to happen so that you can get to know this person before you're invested in a relationship. Because then, like, it's not, because if you're not talking to them and you just start dating, then you're all like, oh, I love you, and like, oh, you're my person forever, and
Yeah.
oh, this, and this, and you're still getting to know each other, and then come to find out, you're telling this person that you've been dating for like 6 months or something isn't actually the Christian man or woman that you thought they were, and you've given a big piece of yourself to this person, and then you break up and then you're screwed. So, like, talking to this person, like,
I'm not making fun of the
talking
idea.
stage.
I don't like the. I was making fun of the term, but I don't think you should go. I don't think you should meet somebody and be like, hey, let's date. That's why I'm saying I think you should be friends with somebody. I don't think you need a label for it. I don't need, because talking implies that, hey, me and this person are talking. It's like the beginning stages of dating. We're exclusively talking. That's what I'm making fun of. That concept. That's like you're kind of dating, but you're not dating. You're putting them on reserve. You have a layaway boyfriend. Like, that's what I'm making fun of. Like, that idea. I do not at all think you should meet someone like, hey, you're hot, let's date. And we'll find out if this is a thing or not. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is you get to know somebody, but you should not put an exclusive thing there. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Why are you barely know this person, so all you're basing that off of is, I've seen this person a couple of times, or we've talked, or whatever, and now we're kind of exclusive. That's the idea I don't like, because I think you're kind of like pre-limiting yourself. Like, if you pass the trial, you can move into boyfriend stage. Why? If you're just friends with somebody, you get to know somebody, you know them for a while. The concept, you know what I mean? It's probably semantics, but I'm a word person. I like digging in what that's talking about. So that's why the idea of it, I don't think is a great idea. I don't think you should be exclusive when you're not dating somebody. You know what I mean? That's putting so much pressure on a relationship that doesn't exist yet. You know, it's like you have 3 different stages. We have a friend, we're talking, we're dating, we're engaged, we're married. There's no more room. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many stages of it. I 100% believe that you should get to know somebody first. Definitely. You're correct in that. And if I gave that impression, I apologize. I did not mean that at all. I just think it's silly to be exclusive with somebody before you know you want to date them. To be honest with you, by the time I asked Jacqueline to be my girlfriend, I could have asked her to be my wife, and there would have been, in my mind, no difference. Like, I knew. I didn't need any more time. But we were both still in college. And I didn't want to get married while we were still in college. I wanted to be able to finish my schooling, keep my mind focused on that before I got married. But, I mean, I had a conversation with one of my best friends, and there was this person I knew at the time, they liked me. I was 100% sure they were. It's not hard to tell sometimes, right? And then there was Jacqueline, and Jacqueline is, like, not flirty at all. Like, not at all. So I had no idea she liked me, but I knew I liked her. So I actually had that conversation with my friend John, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to ask Jacqueline out. He's like, yeah, but so-and-so you know likes you. I was like, yeah, but I know I like Jacqueline. I was like, so I'm willing to risk that, you know? And so I knew that by the time I asked her to date me, I knew. That's what I'm saying. Like, and I'm not saying I'm perfect or I did it the only way to do it. What I'm saying is, when you go to date somebody, you should know. You should know that this is a person that you want to at least, like, you know, we've been talking about, find out if what you think is true is true. Because if there had been some red flags that come up while we were dating, great, I have an out. We're dating. We're not engaged. We're not married. Even engaged. I've given advice to people that were engaged before, where I was like, hey, you have to decide if this problem that you are dealing with them is something that you want to attach yourself permanently to. Because you are not married. And don't get married unless you're 100% sure. That's what I'm saying, is that by the time you enter that dating relationship, you should spend some time, like you said, getting to know them. And if the term they use is talking, that's fine. That concept you brought up is 100% true. You definitely need to know that person before you start dating them. I agree with you.
I think something to make another big point I'd like to make is seeing someone older than you, having this relationship, like a really good, solid relationship, like watching them. Like, personally, I've always looked towards my parents, but like, I'll take Grace and Jacob for example. I'm seeing their relationship from start to finish, however that finish ends up.
Yeah.
And that's something I watch, like, because they're both really godly people and they're young and still figuring out life. Because, like, society today and social media has such a twisted perspective on what dating should be. Is the real life good Christian relationship is definitely something you want to look at.
There's not a lot of them.
Yeah, it's definitely rare, but it's definitely something you want to use as a model when looking for a relationship.
For sure.
No matter how happy or annoying they might be.
Right?
No matter how annoying it is to be in the backseat while they're out on their date, is watch how they are with
As a
like,
third
each
what?
other.
Third nerd.
Third nerd.
Third
Okay.
nerd.
I don't know if it's going to completely ruin the mood or something, but like
Uh-oh.
you have to admit, a successful marriage ends with watching the other person die.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
True.
Yep. I've done enough funerals to know that that's definitely true. It's definitely true. Also, what a great life.
It's like my cousin. My great aunt just passed away, and her husband, for the 3 weeks that he didn't sell the house because all the memories are made in the house, obviously.
Yeah.
It like anytime he'd wake up in the morning, he'd say good morning, and then he'd be like, "Oh yeah, there is no good morning. There is like he'd be
It's
like,
tough.
like he'd call her and I'd be like, oh yeah, she's not here. Like it's hard. Like
Definitely.
yeah.
When you're in a Christian marriage, though, and that person goes before you, what do you know?
You see him
They're in
again?
heaven. Like, you just started.
You'll see him again.
You
one
got
day.
you got the short version of it. We're about to have eternity together. Like that's the amazing thing is that you're not saying goodbye at death. You're just about to get to the part where both of you are perfect. No arguments, no discussions, no disagreements, no problems to deal with. Just eternity with people that believe the same way as you. Pretty
Will
incredible.
there ever be where you are married to someone, you make it to heaven, and they don't?
Yeah.
Because I feel like that could be very difficult.
Yeah. There are people that got married when they both didn't know Jesus, and then one person would get married. I'm getting married. That's illegal. It's in Utah. So, there's people that get married, and then one of them comes to know Jesus, and that's a hard place to be in. It really is. It's a hard place to be in. I know a lot of people like that, and it's tough. It's tough. Any other questions? You guys brought up a lot of good things. The biggest takeaway is when you're looking for something in somebody, look at their relationship with God. You want it to be at your level or above your level. Don't just take somebody just because they're like, yeah, I heard of God. Finally, that's good enough for me. It's not where it ends, right? And then the second thing is that be careful in dating that you keep your eyes focused on that we are trying to bring glory to God by maximizing our potential to do things for God. Two very important things. Okay? Anything else? Are you asking a question or is
I
you?
have one thing that probably might work for this. Like for kids who are young, like keeping like friends who are maybe both genders around you.
Mm-hmm.
So you have your people you can get really close to. Like for me, my two best friends are both girls.
Mm-hmm.
But also I grew up with this one boy, literally since pre-K, and I know him inside out. And he's the one that got with one of my best friends.
Oh yeah.
I knew the two of them would be perfect for each other. But also, like, when you're little, you have someone of, like, the opposite sex. And you grow up together, and you learn that you have feelings for each other. You already know who they are.
True.
You already know their inside and out.
Yep. Definitely. That's very true.
That could also be very dangerous if you mess it
Blackmail.
up.
If you mess it up.
If you mess up when you're 13, then it's like, oh.
Well, that's
that was
again.
the one and I messed it up. Dang it.
That's again, honestly, as Christians, if you're dating someone and you started dating them at 13, I think legally in New York you can't get married until 18, right?
16 with parental consent.
16?
I'm pretty sure it's 18.
16, your parents could sign.
Wow.
Parental consent is
New York, you're
There
the
you go.
worst. Okay,
Same.
fine.
Without consent.
That's it. Even that. Realistically, though, if you're getting married, let's say 18, which is pretty young to get married, right? Even if you're getting married at 18, you start dating at 13. That's 5 years that you're spending with somebody. It's really hard to stay the course as a Christian when you're involved with somebody for 5 years. That is tough. It really is. I'm not saying from a relation standpoint. I'm saying from a purity standpoint. 5 years, that's a long time. That's a long time. I do not advise that at all. But I'm not your parents or your guardian. That's their call.
It's like the person I'm talking to right now. We haven't even known each other a whole year,
Yeah.
but yet we know exactly each other's personality. Like, it's literally almost identical.
You're going to find, though, that from now over the next 3 or 4 years, there's going to be some changes because you really don't start seeing some of that happen until you get a little bit older. Be careful. Be careful. Make wise choices.
When you're younger, your character is different because you haven't been in situations yet. Like, I don't want to call it real life. Obviously, you guys live real life. But when you get older, you get into situations like the work ethic, how you respond to other people in your life, the schooling. When you start getting in, involved in the workforce, involved in other people, those characteristics are going to start to come out, I guess is what Pastor is trying to say.
Yeah.
It's when you're younger, the character, it might be there, but it hasn't had a chance for you to see it yet.
You also haven't walked through a lot of experiences in your life that will give you character, because character isn't just something you're born with, right? It comes through the things you learn, it comes through God working in your life, it also comes through the things that you learn from the mistakes you make and the changes that you make because of the things you see. A lot of character is really developed. It doesn't come naturally, that's for sure. You develop it from walking through situations. You learn from it, you grow from it, you make better choices moving forward. And so that character development is something that takes place over all of life. But there's a big jump from, 10 up to 20, that's for sure.
It's sort of like a bubble of innocence when you're a little kid, and then the world as you get older starts poking at that bubble and trying to get to the inside.
There's things throughout your whole childhood that are shaping your character, that's for sure. Everybody's different, everybody deals with different things. Some people have to grow up real fast, unfortunately, and some people don't get that influence at home that they should have to be able to build some of the character, so they learn it a little bit later in life. We literally have 4 minutes before game time's done. So, if there's no more questions, I'm gonna pray, because I think my brain is out. I think that's it. Any other questions?
My parents, something Mom has said to me a lot is to, date your best friend, fall in love with your best friend, which I think is a really terrible idea. Because I have a lot of guy friends that I'm really close to because girls suck. And I'd much rather be friends with guys than I would with girls because for a whole bunch of different reasons. And Mom is like, well, you should date your best friend. And I'm like, no, I should not date my best friend because what if we don't work out? And then not only did I just ruin a relationship, I ruined a friendship that I've had for a long time and that meant a lot to me.
Yeah, but see, that's under the idea that I honestly don't think that has to be true, because I think a lot of that depends on what your dating is like. If you date in the right way, you might not end up married, but it shouldn't be it shouldn't be a thing where every time
If you're not,
see them,
right.
if
It
you're
can
not
be a
formally,
mutual-
this person.
if
It
you're
could
not
just be like, this
formally
is not
dating
working
like
out,
that,
but I respect you as a person. I'd like to, go back to the way things were or whatever.
and their interests are, if you're truly dating to get married, you want to be with your best. That's the person you want to be with forever. So they need to be.
Yeah.
They need to be like a best friend.
So true.
Somebody that is always going to be there.
Yeah.
Accepts you for your flaws, you accept them, and and it's like it's a goal. It's you don't want to marry somebody because they're cute or whatever, because cute isn't going to get you that next 50, 60, 70 years of a relationship.
Yeah. I mean, that comes down, honestly though, if you're thinking, if you have somebody that is your best friend that you do think would make a good spouse, I think it's worth taking that risk. I mean, like I said, I did with Jacqueline, because she was one of my best friends. If that didn't work out, I don't think we would have had any issues, honestly, because we both got along pretty good. I don't think if we, didn't get married that we wouldn't have been friends. But definitely would have obviously changed your relationship. But don't settle for something because you're afraid to take that risk of it either. That's not a good idea. Because on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, this is it, then I'm praying, I'm done. This is it. I literally have heard somebody say, this is a girl, she said, I want to date somebody that I don't like that much, so that if it doesn't work out, it doesn't hurt that bad.
That's terrible.
That's the person they married. That marriage did not make it through, obviously. That's a stupid idea. But that's honestly the furthest extent of what you're saying is, hey, I really like this person, but if it doesn't work out, that's really going to hurt. The furthest extent of that is, okay, I'm not going to date somebody that I like that much because if it doesn't work out, I don't want it to hurt that badly.
It's like getting married with one foot in the door already.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. That's expecting it not to work,
Right.
you know?
And just
I'm just gonna say this: having a relationship hurts. There's gonna be fights, arguments. There's gonna be a lot of things that just hurts your relationship.
we were watching some Chip and Graham marriage videos, and there was this one comment that he made that really stuck with me. I mean, he just does a phenomenal job with everything. But he said something about basically the person that you married, like you may not have married the right person, like maybe you made the wrong choice, but that person is now the right person.
Yes. Oh, that's great.
You know, and when you put it in that perspective, it's like, you know, you make that choice, and in God's eyes, two have become one, and you've got to put the work in.
You grow up in a world that does not take marriage as a contract. They take it as like dating. It's unfortunate, but the Lord sees it as a binding contract.
Yeah.
Like,
So
you
much
know.
so that he compares Jesus' relationship and his love to the church to a husband's love and
Yep.
relationship with his wife.
So if the whole goal of dating is marriage, make sure you make your decisions wisely. Like Pastor's been saying, don't settle.
No.
You know, don't think, well, I don't want to hurt this person's feeling. You have to realize that you're talking a 6 months or a year of dating, but you want to go 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
You know, it won't change.
I had to say this too because I find this all the time. You said all your friends growing up were right now are guys. Myself growing up, a lot of my friends were girls. And one of the things I saw a lot with girls were they did not think a lot of themselves. And so they always picked people that, to my mind, I'm like, they are not for you. But they didn't they didn't see who they were. They didn't think they were, you know, they'd say, I'm not good looking, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. And so they'd settle for something, and I'm like, why are you dating a two? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? You're dating somebody that checks none of the boxes. But they didn't have a high view of themselves. And so that's why I always talk about your relationship with God is so important before you start dating. Because as a girl or as a guy, your value is not in what you look like or your perception of what you look like or your talents or your abilities or all these things. Your value is that the creator of the universe would put you together to fulfill a purpose. But a lot of times you look at yourself and say, I'm not pretty, or I'm not important, or I'm not valuable, when you need to step back and say, God thinks you are. And so you are holding yourself to a standard lower than God sees you. And that's a terrible thing. And I see with girls more than I do with guys, is they don't think a lot of themselves, and so they settle because they don't think they deserve better. And I know you guys pretty well, and you guys are all awesome. Don't settle. Don't settle. There is somebody that will meet the criteria you are looking for. Settling never works out.
When do you ever find them in your life? That's a
How old are you?
Or will they?
How old are you?
I was making a point that her could be in China.
No, I do not believe that there is one person created for you on this earth. I don't believe that. Why? Because if you chose wrong, you messed it up for the whole world.
Right.
Like, that's stupid. I do think there are particular attributes and traits of a person that are specifically set that will fit you very well. But I'm not somebody that's saying there's a soulmate that you have to find. What I'm saying is that often we settle because we don't see ourselves the way God sees us. And he died on the cross for you. You're valuable. You have purpose. He sees who you are. And the things that you define yourself and that society has defined you as is they've turned it into, you have to look like this person in this magazine. And then the Bible says what is on the inside is what makes a person who they are. And so we learn so much just by recognizing what God sees us as. Yes?
Something back to like the whole don't date your best friend thing. Last year, I was with someone, and it didn't work out. We didn't talk for a couple months. Then COVID hit, and now we see each other again. Like, we're not together, but we'll see each other in school and stuff, and we're friends.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like...
It just does take a little bit of time.
You just... Sometimes if you're with someone, and it doesn't work out, you know them enough to at least be their friend.
Yeah.
Because even if it does hurt, not being with them in a relationship, you could at least try to make amends.
One of the things I see all the time is I see it with ex-husbands and ex-wives a lot. The way a ex-husband or an ex-wife will talk about their spouse that they had at one time is they talk so much trash about them. And I always want to, like in my head, I'm always thinking, at one point in your life, you stood there and said, I'm going to be with you forever. So you're just looking at all the negative things and you're ignoring the good attributes of them. I think the same thing happens sometimes in dating. Yes?
So, something that I thought of during church this morning was our pastor was preaching out of 1 Corinthians 13, and he said that love never fails, and after a breakup, you're like, oh, I loved him, and but it obviously failed, so it wasn't love. God has, like you said, I don't think there's this one person that you're supposed to be with or whatever, but God has your future spouse already picked out for you. He knows. And so it's you're gonna, your first boyfriend isn't necessarily gonna be your husband, but it obviously wasn't meant to be if it fails, because love never fails.
Maybe not the second.
It takes work sometimes, though. Like, you're gonna have different emotions all throughout your marriage, your dating years, whatever it is. It's gonna be a bit of a roller coaster depending on what's going on in life, and you're gonna have to work at it. It's not, a feeling that's just always there and going to remain. Sometimes it takes work.
The work you have to put into it really matters with who you chose in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Because when Jacqueline and I first got engaged, we had a whole bunch of people say things like, yeah, marriage is terrible, marriage is hard, marriage is awful. And I was like, thanks for all the encouragement. You guys are awesome, right? And then we got married, and I'm not gonna lie, it's been a pretty easy 8 years. It's there's not many difficulties in my marriage. Choose wisely. That's all I'll say. Jacqueline covers a multitude of my sins. That's for sure. We are praying because it is over. Y'all are going home. Father God, thank you so much for who you are. Thank you for this marriage that you have placed in our for us. You've placed this here on earth to have helpmates for us to be able to work together to glorify you. God, help us to stay focused and help these people here. If there's somebody here today that is, they really haven't had any value in themselves, help them to remember and to know that they are deeply loved by the Creator of the universe, that you died on the cross for them, that you have created them exactly how they are to accomplish a purpose, that you do have somebody for them, and that you do, or unless you have called them to signal us, of course, but you do have somebody there for them, and they're unique because they're going to help somebody in a unique way. And so we do thank you. We love you. In Jesus' name, amen.